City of Stevens Point Police and Fire Commission meeting, recorded, November 17, 2020.
I will call to order this meeting of the Stevens Point Police and Fire Commission for November the 17th. Leanne, would you be kind enough to please call the roll?
Carlson?
Yes.
Kirschling?
Here.
Moore?
Here.
Ostrowski?
Here.
Westcott?
Present. Please let the record show that Alderperson Mary Kneebone, liaison from the Common Council, is also with us today. Let's move to item number 2 on the agenda. We really have a couple of items today dealing with the COVID emergency going on in our country. But first, let's focus on the update on the COVID state of emergency. Members of the Police and Fire Commission, you have received a letter from Fire Chief Robert Finn. I'm going to have Bob review that letter for you in a moment. What I want to add before Bob gets started here is what I'm going to be recommending when the chief is done is what he's probably going to read to you here is that we're just going to relax the state of emergency. And then I want to discuss when the chief is done putting in place, colleagues, a set of parameters that if it needs to be reactivated, we have those steps in place and the chief can just simply hit the on button and go without having to trying to round up commissioners for a quorum. So with that, Chief Finn, you have the floor, sir.
Thank you, sir. The letter was addressed to President Westcott and Commissioner Kirschling, my liaison. As of 11/18/2020, I am requesting the end of the Police and Fire Commission declared state of emergency regarding the Stevens Point Fire Department. The fire department has reached a state where our manpower is no longer at a critical level. This is due to several factors. One being COVID-19 quarantine and cases of members have now reached a status where the leveling of PPE needed within Station 1 and 2 can be relaxed to normal CDC required equipment. Second, 3 personnel that were currently within their orientation period at the beginning of the declaration have now successfully passed the department's orientation requirements and are now able to fully staff apparatus and positions. While we are requesting an end to the declaration, the Stevens Point Fire Department will still be taking the following precautions in hope of preventing future staffing difficulties. Social distancing of all on-duty personnel will continue. Dormitory facilities have been separated into departments so personnel can perform their duties and live without overexposure to other members. Also, full PPE precautions are still required when staff must work together or be in prolonged contact. Training of personnel will be separated by station to prevent unnecessary exposure between Station 1 and Station 2 personnel. General fire inspections have been suspended to prevent community spread exposure to our department personnel. Entry of all non-department personnel has been restricted at both stations to prevent unnecessary exposure between the public and department personnel. I thank the Commission for their assistance and quick response for assisting the department so that our service could continue at 100% capacity during the required recovery and quarantine time of our department personnel. Signed, Robert J. Finn, Fire Chief, 11/16/20.
Before we go to questions from the Commission, Chief, we have heard you and others report for several weeks now, you know, the number of firefighters that were tested, some tested positive, some were in quarantine. Everyone's doing okay?
Everyone's doing fine. It was the work of Chief Gemza, Dr. Clark, and Gary Garski that we were able to get some of our personnel that were quarantined deemed as essential personnel. Were able to work during their quarantine period and then go home and be quarantined. During that time, everyone wore surgical gowns, N95 mask, eye shields, even in the stations. And that allowed us to continue the operations at the fire department.
That's good to hear. Before I add a little bit more to this, are there questions from the Commission for Chief Finn. Joe Kirschling, I know you're the liaison. You have been basically on the front lines. You're to be commended working so closely with the chief. Any thoughts you wish to add, sir?
No, I'm in support of what we're looking to do. The chief has done a fantastic job, really a fantastic job trying to keep everybody safe. And I can't stress that enough. He's been in constant contact with me. I know he's spoken to you, and he's just doing a fantastic job keeping all the members safe yet effective.
I can share with my colleagues the all-time record number of phone calls in one day from Chief Finn is 6. So that's the record you're all going to have to beat. So Bob does a great job of communicating and keeping us informed. Are there questions from the commission on the letter from the chief? Then I want to add some. Yes, Commissioner Ostrowski. Yes, sir.
Just one question for Chief Finn. Are we back at 100% strength?
For the personnel we have now, everyone's back on, but we are still too short on our roster.
Right, but for everybody else
But everyone is back to work, yes.
Congratulations, Chief.
And knock on wood,
Yep.
we're doing good. Don't want to jinx it.
And how are the 3 that have basically cleared hiring training protocols? How are they doing so far?
They're doing well. They just were put on shift last week. They are currently out at the old Belkey house that we are doing. Trevor Howard, our training officer, according to these guidelines, has broke up the training, and they're out there as of right now doing some training.
Are there other commission questions? Yes, Commissioner Carlson. Yes, sir.
I just want to say in these tough times that's some really good news, Chief Finn. And it's an excellent example of improvising, adapting, and overcoming, making it work for the department and the citizens of this community. So hats off to all you guys.
It's the management team and the men and women of the fire department that make this place run.
Absolutely. It's clearly a team effort. What I would like my colleagues to consider is a motion to the following, that we accept the letter as presented from the fire chief. But what I would also like to do is put in place a mechanism that if Chief Finn reaches a point in time rather quickly, sometime during the holidays, where he needs to reinstate the state of emergency, instead of having to have the commission come together for an emergency meeting, that you would authorize him to do that if the following steps are taken. A, he communicates the need to his liaison, Commissioner Kirschling, as to why he believes he needs to re-implement the state of emergency as originally passed by the commission. If Commissioner Kirschling concurs, he then contacts me. If I can concur with it, he may then basically re-implement the necessary protocols and procedures under the state of emergency, and the rest of the commission will be notified. That would basically mean that he can move quickly and swiftly in this emergency, which we're all keenly aware of. And I would like to see that if you're comfortable with that. Basically, trying to round up commissioners for a special meeting during Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year could pose to be problematic. Doable, but I think if with these proper safeguards in place, we're okay. Thoughts? Yes, Jerry, go ahead, sir. Commissioner Moore.
I want to make sure that we're clear that there's an end date on this one also. The reason that I do that is being formerly on the personnel committee, it was great effort put into negotiating with the fire department. I want the union to understand that we are doing things in a very proper manner. We're not abusing our agreement, and that they're aware of it also, so that they understand that we are concerned with them and we're not trying to take advantage of them in any way.
Here. I think we all feel that way. Chief Finn?
Well, I agree.
Commissioner Moore, that's why the letter was written. I know you had concerns about an open-ended date. That was never the intent of anybody here. So, you know, and I know you believe that.
Yeah.
It was just to keep the operations of the fire department going and keep the men and women and their families safe throughout this pandemic.
If my colleagues are comfortable, I'm prepared to make a motion to accept the letter and to place in, as part of the motion, a process and procedure for the fire chief, as I've outlined to you, to basically step back into a state of emergency, following the process that I've outlined with communication to the liaison, Commissioner Kirschling, communication to me, and then to the entire Police and Fire Commission. And I would certainly agree with my colleague, Commissioner Moore, with the caveat, as we've heard from both Commissioner Moore and from Chief Finn, that this is going to end today, but we're simply putting in place a procedure to reactivate it in an emergency situation. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Ostrowski. Thank you. Bob, you want the floor, sir?
I just had one thing with that. I would only add to your motion that commissioners notified if it has to be reactivated.
Oh, absolutely. And if I omitted that, that's part of it. And then you would all be notified that it's back in place. The mayor's office would be notified, so he can notify the full common council. The news media would be notified. I'm just simply trying to give our fire chief and his management team the ability to move swiftly and quickly if the emergency recurs.
Second on that, then.
All right, is there further discussion or question on the motion, colleagues? All right, seeing none, all in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, motion carries. Item 3 is an update on the COVID community response. I know that Assistant Chief Gemza will be joining us for part of this discussion. Members of the commission, we are at a moment in time where our hospitals are full. ICU beds throughout the state are at capacity. Those of you who have known me for a short period of time, and those of you who have known me for a long time, know I'm not an alarmist, but I'm genuinely concerned about the direction, the trajectory of this pandemic in this country. I am genuinely concerned about its impact on our healthcare workers, doctors, paramedics, nurses, and concerned on support staff, police, those who answer the 911 calls. Since we met, our last meeting of the Police and Fire Commission was November 3rd, 2 weeks ago. In the last 2 weeks, 662 of our fellow citizens have died from coronavirus. This is a very serious illness, and it needs to be taken seriously. Chief, with that, I'm going to turn it over to you and to Assistant Chief Gemza. I'm looking for a community update as to the steps, processes, and procedures that have been taking place. I would also like you to touch, Joseph, if you could, on the degree of flu, which is compounding the problem here in Portage County. And then if one or both of you could talk about preliminary planning for distribution of the vaccine. And I know you also have some news about working with the university. So I'll stop talking. Chief Finn, you and Chief Gemza have the floor.
I'll just start with a little bit and then I'll let Chief Gemza take over because Chief Gemza has been living COVID-19 for 24 hours a day for the last 8 months. President Westcott, you did mention something with UWSP. Part of this reason that we were able to reduce this, relax the state of emergency, we have an agreement with UWSP for rapid testing. They have Wednesdays and Fridays. Our personnel can sign up online on duty or off duty and go get tested. If any of our personnel test positive, they will be sent home and will be go to sign up at Marshfield Clinic, which will notify them within 24 hours and give a COVID test that is more decisive. That person will be isolated until he gets the results back within 24 to 36 hours. That alone is going to go to mid-December. That allows our members to protect each other in the firehouse and their families at home. As I said in the letter, we are still living in pods in the firehouse, eating in shifts and doing our social distancing. I will let Chief Gemza go over the rest of the measures that we've taken in the community, the stuff we've been doing with the community and the hospitals. Chief?
Thank you.
So, like Chief Finn said, the UWSP antigen testing that's open Wednesdays and Fridays, we've written a policy to allow our personnel to schedule that as long as they clear it with their house captain, and they'll go over and get the 15-minute antigen test. If that comes back positive, or if there's a thought process that they needed to be tested with the PCR, the more accurate test, they will then schedule an appointment with Marshfield Clinic, and we'll get those answers within 24 hours, like Chief Finn said. So that's something we're kind of excited about, to allow our personnel to do that. The next step that we're looking at is really our run volume. So our run volume in the last month has been about 321 runs. Of that, 19% of those runs have been tested positive for COVID-19 or have come in as the person had tested positive. That's up from 9% in July, and we would only anticipate that continues to move forward. We continue our community testing program in coalition with the Portage County and the other services in Portage County at the ADRC for the regular PCR testings on Tuesdays and Thursdays, where our personnel go over and assist in that. The numbers continue to rise in our community. They've seen a big uptick since Halloween in the age groups of 19 to 26. And that's what they're dealing with right now. Many of the hospitals are, I guess, what I'll quote them as saying, bursting at the seams. They do have some beds available, but one of the problems, if you think about the trickle-down effect to COVID-19, is our elderly and at-risk population who can't get admitted to the hospitals and can't get admitted to long-term care facilities if that facility tests positive for COVID-19. So that's putting a stress on the whole community as a whole. Just got out of a meeting today with hospice. Hospice says that they've seen a large number of people electing to go directly home as opposed to the hospital. One of the things that they mentioned was that the reason being is that if you're in a hospital, you can't be with loved ones. So the home hospice says that this is putting a strain on them at this point. Social services said the state told them that they needed to start making in-person contact with people. So they're seeing an uptick in mental health and overall well-being of people. So that's one line that we want to be concerned of and one that we want to watch because, as you know, a certain percentage of our run volume is the elderly, and we can only anticipate that will start increasing as this pandemic continues to move. A couple of the things that we are working on regarding ensuring the safety of our personnel will be deconning of the ambulances and making sure that we have proper PPE. As of right now, we appear to be okay with the proper PPE. There's a lot more companies coming out and some equipment being available. However, I wouldn't say it's available in a timely fashion. Most stuff is back ordered, and we need to make sure that it's the appropriate equipment. With that, we've been working with the first responder groups for anything that they may or may not need regarding their PPE. Our operations have changed in patient contact. When this first started, it was make sure that we have that the patient's wearing a mask and that we're wearing a surgical mask. And anytime there's an aerosolized procedure, that an N95 would be utilized, or if COVID-19 was considered prevalent in that household or in that area. As of now, they wear N95s and full PPE on every single call. That Portage County Health has said that this is community widespread. And so trying to figure out who has COVID and who doesn't is not a viable plan anymore. So we're just assuming everybody has. I believe I spoke to you guys about operating 2 different ambulances at each station, one for the long-term care facilities that currently have an outbreak or a number of COVID patients. So that can be cleaned quicker and leave the frontline ambulance in a different state. So they would take the backup ambulance stripped down of equipment. So for ease of decon for those types of non-emergent transports. Our station operations have changed a little bit, like Chief Finn had mentioned. One thing I'd like to say regarding training, because unfortunately we can't just stop training in the fire service. Things change, equipment changes, and we need to make sure that our personnel is ready to go for any unexpected type of emergency. So we've changed our operations in only allowing one station at a time to train and to ensure that they're social distanced. And that has been worked out well this week with the Belkey House. And management team has decided that our best option at this point is to evaluate that weekly to see how we're doing and ensuring that we continue with those safe practices. Now we can get on to the vaccine. We've been, the last week or so, been working with Portage County Health, UWSP Health, Dr. Clark, and the 3 services to come up with a plan. The state has asked that each of us groups come up with a plan for the vaccine. As you know, it's broke up into phases. There's phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3. From all indication, EMS and first responders would be in phase 1A of the vaccine. If you've been following the vaccine, you know that there's possibly 2 vaccines that might be viable at this time. One of them demands a freezer of -80. Both vaccine, which is really problematic operationally when you look at trying to hold vaccines. There's not, your average Yeti isn't going to hold a -80 for cooler for the vaccine. That's why we brought in, that's why we've been working with UWSP, because in I think it's their biology or their science department, they currently have a deep freezer. And so they have the ability to hold the vaccines. One thing you got to understand, the planning of this is difficult at best because you're trying to plan for something you really don't know if it's going to pass. Number one, you don't know what the logistics are going to be. And you have a lot of meetings and that changes daily, just like COVID does. So the one thing when we worked with UWSP, we talked about doing the pod style a vaccination at the UWSP, possibly in the MAC, kind of like what we did with their flu vaccines.
Mm-hmm.
That way we'd be able to bring people in safely and we'd be able to get the vaccine from the science building over there in a timely fashion to ensure that. There's a lot of different things that are going through with that. The booster for these are supposed to be 21 to 28 days apart. So you can imagine logistically trying to figure it out. The state has asked that the vaccines come in, first off, they said in bundles of 900. So you'd have to vaccine 900 people. And remember, those are only the phase 1A people. That's not for mass production. That's just for first responders. At the state level, a lot of people say, well, wait, we don't know if we could do that. The hospitals will obviously take care of their own staff. But countywide, we and with the university, we wouldn't have 900 people. They kind of loosened it up to maybe possibly at a minimum of 100 increments, which is something I believe is doable for us. For the phase 1A. Phase 2 would be law enforcement and the high priority people. We're also looking at working with the long-term care facilities with their patient care people to ensure that they can get vaccinated also, because we know that some of the spread has come from the employees coming in rather than just the residents. On coupled with that, we have the flu. As we're all fully aware, our big push is the flu vaccine and to ensure that all the personnel have that. As of right now, we've seen a small uptick in the flu. We anticipate that that's going to get worse. We'll work with our nursing homes and our CBRFs. In the past, what they've done is they'll shut down a corridor of an area and for the influenza and notify us so that we're fully aware of that. But that's kind of what I have just for the next few minutes. It could change in another hour or so, but that's what I have. I'm more than willing to entertain any questions that any of you may or may not have.
All right, let me, are there any immediate questions? Chief, you had your hand up there. Yes, sir.
And I'm sorry, I'd be remiss if I didn't say the city, Lisa and Corey have been great to work with. All these tests are being provided to our employees at no cost to them. Even the second test, the city is picking up the tab. It's not going on their health insurance. It's not coming out of their deductible. And I forgot to say that in my intro. So I just wanted to make sure I got so everyone knew.
Are there immediate questions for Chief Gemza from the commission? Commissioner Chief Zenner, I'm going to ask you for a quick overview in a second here, but Commissioner Ostrowski, you have the floor.
Chief Genza, I noticed there's a sign on 4th Avenue by the university. Is that sign for testing? Is that strictly for students or is that for anybody?
That's the open testing. That's from 8 to 4 on Wednesdays and Fridays. If you go to their website, you can link on and schedule an appointment.
What about your elderly that usually don't have computers or something? Can they go there?
You can get registered on site. They prefer that you register before you get there, but they will register you if you come in.
So that is open to the public if
that is open to the public. That's part of the Uwsp grant that they sent out, I think, 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
And it's also in UW. It's also on other days in Marshfield and up in UW Marathon too, on Tuesdays and Thursdays, I believe.
And ARDC is still doing their testing also?
Yes, the wing is scheduled to go through, I think, the second week in December, and we're scheduled to end sometime in the second week in December also.
Now, you mentioned on the vaccine, you mentioned using the facility at the U for vaccination. Would it be your people doing giving the vaccine, or would it be medical people brought in?
So it'll be a joint. It will be joint. It will be between the 3 services because we're all cleared to give IM and immunizations through the state. It will be us or UWSP, their healthcare providers, and Portage County Health. So it'll be a mixture of all of us working together. It'll be a true team effort.
Okay, and my last question is, you guys have alluded to the fire department personnel. What about you work with the first responders throughout the county? How have they held up? Have we lost a lot of them due to COVID?
So far, we've been okay, and we've been doing well. We had a meeting last night, made sure that they understood if they have a need for PPE. I know some of them have been sending up through the emergency management system, like we have. They send out a 14-day update for PPE. So far, so good.
Okay, thank you very kindly, Chief.
Before we proceed much further, Chief Center, the other side of the protective services are police officers who have contact. How are we doing?
We're doing good. I don't have a whole lot more to add other than what Chief Gemza has thrown out there. Some things to concur on, though, also is the calls involving mental health. We continue to see an uptick in calls for service involving our community with individuals in the realm of mental health. Officer Radsick stays quite busy with calls for service within that realm, trying to contain some of those individuals that we have repeat contacts with to ensure they're safe and we don't find ourselves running into more calls of individuals going into crisis. At the police department, we've been maintaining pretty much status quo. The only difference that we have changed here in the last week, we have gone back to our non-essential employees, our records personnel working from home. We have not discontinued any services. Our lobby is still open, but they are on a rotation, 1 to 2 hours a day. Each records personnel will come in, but we just have one working the window. The other 2 will be working from home. So that's our current status at the PD. We as other departments within the city, we're no different. We're taking some hits, but we have not been in a situation where it's dramatically affected our services or our overtime budget. We're doing good yet.
Chief Gemza, what should the community be doing as this pandemic only intensifies?
I would recommend that we still follow the CDC guidelines and the state guidelines regarding social distancing. I think with deer hunting coming up and Thanksgiving, I think we're going to be making tough choices as a community on what we should and shouldn't do. But I think the numbers speak for themselves. As of right now, we're still trending upwards, and we need to make sure that we wear our masks, wash our hands, and stay away from each other for a while.
What is the situation report on area hospitals as far as hospital beds and ICUs as of today?
I do not know exactly what, as of today, I don't get an update daily. We do at 5 p.m. every night. As of right now, St. Mike's is still accepting patients. However, they're encouraging less use of that, if you understand what I'm saying. So they're asking you to be a little smarter about what you can and can't do. And Aspirus is at the same level. They've been opening up. Marshfield Medical Center opened up Weston, third wing, and they also at their facility, and they also opened a third wing in Marshfield for COVID.
All right. Let me pause. Questions for Assistant Chief Gemza or Chief Finn from members of the Police and Fire Commission? Well, you folks are really quiet today. We should have more 1 o'clock meetings. This is okay. All right. All right, folks, thank you. If there are no questions from the commission, we'll move on. Thank you. Item 4 is an update on the search and screen for police chief candidates. The bulk of this we're going to handle as part of our closed session coming up on item 6. I will report to the community. We reported last month on some of the criteria we're looking for. I don't see any reason to reread that into the record. If community members are interested in some of the language that has been used to attract a chief, I would encourage you to, I think it's on the city website, that material, so please feel free to go read that. As of today, we're running about 28 to 30% fewer applicants than, and our window for application is, Commissioner Carlson might have to clarify this. Our window has been longer to date, but we are still running 28 to 30% behind where we were the last time we did a search and screen for chief, and that was a much shorter window when we began the vetting process, which we're going to begin here today. So I would report that publicly, and the rest of this discussion, that could be a couple of things. It could be all the news. It could be the pandemic. There are probably a lot of folks that don't necessarily look for a job during Thanksgiving and Christmas. So, Ron, you're leading the search and screen there. Anything you would add to that before I move to the 5th item, our last item in public session?
No, the one bright spot about it is the applicants we do have all seem to meet the qualifications and look very interesting. I will say that as a little teaser there, but everybody looks really good who's applied. Leanne and I reviewed the resumes last week and they look good. I think what you touched on, I think it's a lot of things going on in the world today. The pandemic, the news every day about things regarding police, bitter things going back and forth here, maybe in the community. I don't know, but it definitely isn't. It isn't people beating down the walls to apply. That I'll say, but I'll talk later.
All right, thank you. With that, and again, the bulk of this discussion will take place when we get to item 6. Let's move to item 5. This will be discussion among members of the Police and Fire Commission regarding the Common Council resolution regarding the Police and Fire Commission. I know you're all familiar with it. Attorney Dietrich, I will ask him to offer some observations from a legal point of view. Colleagues, I'm going to ask you for your thoughts in just a moment here. I do want to share again, and I'm going to talk about this a couple of times. In 2016, September 2016, a recognized expert on police and fire commissions, Attorney Greg Dunta, presented to the Police and Fire Commission. A number of members of the city administration and members of the Common Council were able to attend Attorney Dunta's presentation. It's an educational workshop on what a commission is and how it works and its roles and responsibilities. I know there's been an awful lot written, a lot said in the last few months about that, but I think it's, again, an exceptional educational opportunity. I'm pleased that Attorney Gunta has accepted the commission's invitation to present. That will take place at 4 o'clock on December the 1st. That would be the first regular commission meeting scheduled in the month of December, 4 o'clock. Please make note of it on your calendars at 4 o'clock on December 1st. What we will do, colleagues, with your concurrence is we'll move the business portion of our meeting like we did 4 years ago to the following day, December 2nd. And we'll probably meet about 2 o'clock that day to handle the business, finish up the evaluations. I have a couple of opening comments on the Common Council resolution before the Police and Fire Commission. And first and foremost, colleagues, I mean this sincerely. I want to applaud the commission. I know how hard you work. I know how hard you work on the myriad of issues that face the public safety in this community. And I applaud you for not getting distracted by the politics of the last few weeks, last few months, and to stay focused on the considerable amount of work that the commission faces in leading not only through this pandemic, as we've heard again from commissioners and from Assistant Chief Gemza, but also continuing to move forward on updating policies and procedures, updating a bunch of very important areas that are vital to the community safety, and for moving forward with the search and screen for the police chief. I'd like to applaud the mayor. I'd like to applaud the mayor for taking the time to clearly study and to understand the law. I don't want to say that again. To understand the law as it relates to the commission and personnel matters and to the facts of this case. I'd also like to commend Alderperson Mary Nebo, a liaison who shows up for every one of these meetings, observes the meeting, takes notes, and she's doing the work. And we're aware of that and we are appreciative. Now, again, so much of this has been said and written before, but I think it is worth putting into the record once and for all time. I have written to the Common Council on 2 occasions, to the mayor and to others. This investigation was handled the way one would be handled for any employee. There is a legal process, and in any unit of government, at no juncture would it be appropriate to involve the legislative body in that legal process. It simply is not within the constitutional authority of a common council. The commission followed the law. The commission acted in the best interest of this community that we love. The commission requested 2 investigations into the city's former police chief, which ultimately led to his resignation. The city attorney, the mayor, and outside legal counsel all confirmed the commission acted properly and the commission acted legally every single step of the way. The discipline issued by the commission was based on the recommendation initially from the city attorney and then legal counsel, and the facts were presented to the commission. It's well documented. The reports, the letters from the city attorney are all available and have been made public a long time ago. Now, it's not clear to me why some who have not attended a commission meeting in almost 3 years are so blatantly disregarding established facts and the conclusions from the mayor and from the city attorney. We can all agree, and I mean this, we can all agree and have agreed for some time that harassment, bullying, sexism, racism, and misogyny are completely inappropriate and have no place anywhere. The policies mentioned in the council resolution are not new to this commission. They have been supported by the commission and have been in effect for some time in both the police and fire departments for many years. The commission reviewed and is well reported and documented since about June, has revised its longstanding policies and procedures. The Police and Fire Commission, as it is comprised, reflects citizen government at its best in Stevens Point. This citizen volunteer board advocates for public safety services that our residents depend upon. Casting doubt on the work of those who call this community home discourages people from getting involved in their government, unnecessarily sowing seeds of distrust to disenfranchise. The foundation of a democracy is citizen engagement. When citizen volunteers are baselessly criticized, we compromise our ability as a community to recruit citizen volunteers for the work that is so important to the functional, inclusive government we all enjoy. Now, the state legislature's primary purpose in creating a police and fire commission was to remove the administration of fire and police departments from city politics and to place it in the hands of impartial citizen boards. These commissions are created under state law in a way that precludes undue political influence over public safety matters. The focus of politics comes and goes and bounces from issue to issue over time. But the structure the state put in place was designed to insulate core public services from political influence. Again, I would like to reiterate that Attorney Greg Gunta, who is an attorney with the City of Stevens Point insurance carrier, has accepted our invitation and will present an educational workshop on the role of a police and fire commission on Tuesday, December the 1st at 4 o'clock. I certainly hope all older persons and city officials will consider attending this briefing and engaging what I know will be a helpful dialogue moving forward. Commissioners, those are my thoughts. I'm going to recognize commissioners. Commissioner Carlson, you look like you had something. Who wants to start? Commissioner Carlson, Commissioner Carlson.
I'll start. I think those were some very solid words that you said. I hope everyone understands them. I watched the meeting last night and I was very impressed with some of the council members and their understanding of the role of the Police and Fire Commission. And then again, I was a little disappointed with others who didn't seem to understand the role of the Police and Fire Commission. The biggest problem in any organization or any family is communication. And I think we can all do a better job of communicating concerns through individuals, through the groups, rather than through the news media. I think there's enough mudslinging. I think there's enough criticizing that goes on in the media that we could take care of just by talking with each other. We're not a community of 600,000 people, not even 60,000. There's no excuse for us not to be talking to each other, to working through problems, rather than making, I don't want to say a mountain out of a molehill, because there are concerns there, but I wish we could have went about this differently than the way it transpired. But again, I was impressed with council members who had the understanding of what the circumstances are, what the Police and Fire Commission is about. And then again, others who maybe if they did understand, didn't care. But it was a good meeting to watch, and I was impressed at how it all took place. But I'm rambling, so I'll be quiet and let somebody else talk.
Yeah, and I think that has been a slightly troubling aspect of this for some of us. I'll ask you all quickly. I learned of this resolution by reading about it on the front page of the local newspaper. That, Commissioner Carlson, certainly corresponds with what you're talking about. There was no communication to. Did any commissioner receive a call from any of the authors of this resolution, or did anybody know about this before it was in the paper, Commissioner?
No.
All right. Commissioner Moore, Ostrowski, Kirschling?
I'll go next. Ron, you're going to be far more kind than I'm going to be, because there was a definite lack of knowledge from some of the alders last night that have been there for a while. I know that I also watched the meeting from the start until that was done. It was disappointing to hear some of the comments made that were unfounded and very much a slap in the face of every one of us. I did not see that as being a very positive thing coming out of our city council, because we have all devoted our time to this to improve our community, not for our own benefits or anything to that matter. It's because we all live here and we all care about our community. I'm sure that the alders do also, but by basically trying to hold us to a different standard than what the law says is not fair to us. And frankly, some of them should apologize to us for their behavior and the community. I was disappointed last night that they could have taken an hour and a half of the public's time and used it in a much wiser fashion than to go on about this, a subject that has been taken care of for over 6 months now. It was very disappointing. The people that were doing this could have had their 3 minutes at the beginning of the meeting without having a resolution and going through all these things. It certainly didn't make them look good. That's all I have to say.
Commissioner Moore, your comments are especially poignant because you certainly also hold the designation of having served as an alderperson for many years in this community. You served this community, continue to serve this community with honor and distinction. And again, thank you. But you've raised an interesting question, just popped into my head. How long did you say the...
It was close to an hour and a half.
Chief Finn, are you still with us here? Chief Finn, where are you? Are you there? Okay. Bob, how long did the Common Council discuss the Police and Fire Commission resolution last night? Approximately. You don't have to give me a stop.
Approximately an hour and a half.
All right. We have spent considerable time here today talking about the COVID emergency. They spent an hour and a half on the resolution on the commission on a matter that was resolved over 6 months ago. How long did the council spend addressing the pandemic?
None. Zero.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Kirschley?
Yeah, Commissioner Carlson, he touched on what I wanted to say is, aside from the resolution, we all need to keep in mind just how important communication is. I'm talking about, again, not this, even with this resolution, just in everyday life, whether there's an issue or not, having a conversation with someone, whether it's a colleague, whether it's a spouse, friend, or even if it's a neighbor that you're having a dispute with, talking to one another, it avoids heartache, answers questions, mitigates problems. And from what I've found in the past is it avoids misunderstanding. So much can be worked through by just having a conversation, and talking to one another is key, and it goes a long way with any relationship that you're in. Again, not just this resolution, in life in general.
Commissioner Skrosky?
President Westcott really spelled it out the way I think, but if in my own personal case, I've always been known as a compromiser. I didn't see anybody coming forward to me. I didn't hear of anybody coming forward to others on the commission either. But I do know, I've gotten to know the commission members rather well. And there isn't a commissioner that doesn't put the city first. And there isn't a commissioner that doesn't follow the law exactly the way we are. So I would only appreciate that those that want to judge us would give us the consideration to remember that we do care and we do follow the law. And with that, I would only thank my fellow commissioners for going through this with me, because it does test one's patience a little bit.
Attorney Dietrich, you are perhaps, and I'm not going to embarrass this attorney too much, You are certainly well recognized, not only in the state of Wisconsin, but throughout the Midwest as an expert on municipal law. You present in front of the Supreme Court. You have worked very closely with the commission from a legal point of view. We are grateful for your guidance here on difficult matters. These are not easy legal issues. The commissioners have various backgrounds, various educational levels, but we are not attorneys. Any thoughts you would have for us as we basically close the book on this, sir?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. I did attend the meeting last night, and I was available for any questions or clarification or comments. I did not think it was appropriate for me to be suggesting any type of particular position by the alderpersons. I do acknowledge what I thought was good discussion regarding the roles and responsibilities of the commission and the roles and responsibilities of the Common Council. Not sure that everybody sees it the same way. And again, in an optional powers setting, there's not a lot of guidance under the law in the form of case law. I've previously submitted documents to the commission and to the Common Council regarding those concerns and those statutes. There was discussion about the degree of discipline issued, and I think it was well pointed out that the first set of discipline issued by the commission was based upon a specific set of facts. When the commission found out that there were other allegations that had not come forward to the commission rightly so proceeded with a further investigation. And I think the commission well understands, and I hope everyone understands, that when a commission is making decisions about discipline against a member of either department, it has to be based upon facts. It has to be based upon facts that are shown to have existed, not just based upon allegations. The other comments in the discussion focused it on the alleged failure of the commission to release information from the interviews that were conducted by the Wausau Police Department. I thought that things were clear. Perhaps I relied too much on legalese in my communications, but to release the information before the commission had proceeded through the hearing process would have been simply stated a denial of the due process protections that are included as part of the state statute, and would have resulted in a very likely basis for overturning of any ultimate decision by the commission if in fact information is released prior to there being a complete adjudication of the information. And I think, as you all know, that did not occur because of the resignation. So I think, I mean, I'm hoping everybody understands that all employees, all city employees, regardless of their rank or file, so to speak, are entitled to fundamental due process in an investigation under the state statute. Now, that's a little different in a non-police and fire setting, but in a police and fire setting, there are statutory protections that must be given to every member of the police department and the fire department. So it was unfortunate that that was a topic of a discussion and perhaps an expectation that the information would be disclosed or transmitted or released to the Common Council body before final review and consideration by the commission. But the whole concept of due process is often something that people struggle with because it all depends upon your work environment, your status, and again, police and fire have a different status than other municipal city employees and other private sector employees. So with those kind of comments that I was prepared to make if asked, that was the end result of the proceedings before the council, and hopefully that you can now move on to the necessary process of hiring a candidate to permanently fill the position of police chief.
Counselor, and maybe for the commission and generally these discussions by regulatory rule are among the commission only, but I may ask the mayor to jump in here, so be prepared. Is it your understanding today that the Common Council understands that the commission hadn't completed its work on that report, that the resignation of Mr. Skiba ended the investigation and ended our work actually before the work had concluded to complete that report?
I don't know if all Common Council members understand or understood that. It appeared that some Common Council members felt that the information should have been communicated immediately to them, even though the final process had not worked its way through the hearing process. And that's a very important legal standard to be concerned about.
Is there any scenario you can think of where that would have been appropriate to release that information?
Not prior to some level of adjudication of the issue.
Since you do teach law and some government studies, let's have a quick poli-sci quiz. Are there any city employees where the Common Council would be involved in the termination or discipline of any city employee in Stevens Point?
Typically, and it was actually kind of explained very appropriately by the mayor, typically in a setting of what I would call general municipal employees, those personnel matters would be handled by the mayor and the human resource department or the department head for that particular area, that particular department. And the only involvement that the Common Council would have is under the grievance procedure that's in the city ordinances and the city personnel policies. The process of a grievance would ultimately go through several steps, including an independent hearing, and then a final decision by the Common Council. But that's only after there's been adjudication and a decision made, and then a grievance filed and a process followed.
So there is no scenario where frontline a council would be involved with the discipline determination of an employee at that level.
The only place where you would, there are two things. The only place where typically a governing body, a legislative body like the Common Council, they would be involved in a case of city administrator structure as the quote hiring body and the determination body for a city administrator type of position. The department heads, there's a state statute that has to be followed in the removal of certain elected or appointed city officials. Now, be very careful because that's not everybody and that's not all department heads. But for a number that are listed in the state statute, there's a what's called a removal procedure, which would involve the council.
But generally, any city employee, and Stevens Point, as you know, Counselor, does not have a city administrator. I think it's a fair answer to the question to say from a discipline or a termination, unless that employee were to grieve their termination or their discipline, there would be no role for the older persons. I think that's an accurate statement.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
All right. Commissioners, is there anything else? I know we have a lengthy agenda to get to. Mr. Mayor, do you need the floor for 30 seconds before I move forward, or are you comfortable here? I can't see him on my screen, so I don't even know if he's still here. I guess not. Okay. Alderperson Kneebone, you serve as the liaison, and I just momentarily, how important this liaison position is. Alderperson Kneebone shows up recognizing that, you know, she has a limited legal role here, takes notes, and she shows up, studies these issues, and you are to be commended. Again, thank you for doing that. I can't think of anything else that I wish to add. Attorney Gunta will be here on December the 1st at 4 o'clock. And with that, I'm going to move. I'm going to close the book on this because we've got too much other work to do. We've got a volume of work. I'm not going to read that. I just received a message from the mayor. Kind of made me laugh. So thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have so much work to do. The pandemic, the issues in front of us, updating policies and procedures. I provided the alderpersons with a lengthy list of all the training and accomplishments in the last year and a half from the police alone. There's a lot of work, and it's work we willingly embrace. With that, I'm going to move into closed session pursuant to Wisconsin Statute 1985, 1 and C, considering the employment, the promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the government body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility, for police chief candidate status, for possible advancement in the selection process, and to conduct annual performance evaluations for the police and the fire chiefs. We are going to adjourn from closed session. I will announce that. Is there a second to my motion?
Kirschling, second.
Thank you, Commissioner Kirschling. Leanne, would you kindly call the roll? And before we go into executive session, I'd like Chief Zenner, Chief Finn, and Leanne to remain with us. Leanne, would you kindly please call the roll?
Carlson,
Yes.
Kirschling,
Yes.
Moore,
Yes.
Ostrowski,
Yes.
Westcott.
Yes. All right. We're in closed session. We're going to give everybody an opportunity to say goodbye.